Joining me now is Julie Moore from the City of Shorewood, and Julie's going to help us today explain to families how to do a safe escape plan. Thanks for coming, Julie.
So Kelly, why should families put together a safe escape plan?
Well, it's really important that families sit down together and do a safe escape plan together. So everybody in the family knows everyone's expectations, they know the routes, and they can work out some of those questions ahead of time so younger members of the family have an understanding of what's about to happen when they practice their plan.
How often do families need to practice a plan?
They need to practice their plan, first of all, till they reach their goal of getting out in under 3 minutes. And then they also want to practice their plan so they are using their first way out, their second way out. Then once they get really good at it, they want to practice like during the winter or during a rain or at night. They want to put all those scenarios out there so their family gets efficient at their plan. And then once they get good at all those things, then twice a year.
So Kelly, why do we even need to practice our plan?
Well, I always tell people, that when you were younger and somebody handed you a shoe, they didn't say just tie it. You had to practice to be good at it. Just like a good violinist practices, you just have to practice, and especially if you want to get out in under 3 minutes. We ask the schools to do 5 drills a year so the kids get really good at those drills. Well, we want people to be really good at their plan when they're at home because they're more likely to have a fire in their home than they are at school. It also empowers the younger kids in the family to know that they can self-rescue. A lot of times kids are fearful of smoke detectors and fire because they don't know what to do. If you practice with the children and the people in the house, the kids are like, hey, I can do this, I'm confident, I know what to do if a fire does occur, so they're not as scared and not as fearful as that smoke detector or a potential fire. Another thing other members in the family tend to do is they tend to worry about the younger children. Maybe they have a grandpa or grandma that live with them that can't get around as well, or they have a disabled brother or sister. They are going to worry about them, and if the smoke detector goes off, a lot of times those kids go and feel like they need to rescue that person. If you actually practice the plan with the family, the kids can see that somebody's going to go take care of grandma or someone's going to take care of their little brother or sister, so they won't worry about that. They'll just get themselves out and then they'll learn how to stay out. And that way when the kids have questions about, well, can I grab my toys? Can I, grab my favorite picture of me and grandma? You can, at that point, tell them no. So when there's actually a fire, everybody knows what to do and they're out in under 3 minutes.
Should the plan be by surprise, or should everybody know that we're going to practice?
Well, like the schools actually tell everybody the first 2 or 3 drills that they're going to do, but once everybody gets good at it, they do a surprise drill. And that's a good way of doing that drill. Then you really do know, are the kids waking up to the smoke alarm? Do we need to do something different? That's another thing when you practice. You make sure that the kids know what the smoke alarm means, and it doesn't mean that somebody burnt toast. It means it's an emergency. So it's all to make sure that everybody in the family gets up and gets out. So Julie, one of the things that we need to do is once the family sat down and made a plan on paper and they've all discussed it, then they need to actually practice it. So you can give your kids or your family any kind of scenario and maybe talk about it's 3 o'clock in the morning and all of us are in bed. Okay? So you can start out with the kids in bed and you can have, everybody's in their rooms and then somebody's going to press the smoke alarm. And then you want the kids to practice actually rolling out of bed. Okay, getting on the floor and crawling across the floor.
Why do you crawl across the floor low?
Just in case that maybe the kids or somebody's bedroom door is not closed and the hot black icky smoke has come into the room. You want to get them in the habit of actually crawling out of the bed and crawling low, because especially at night, they're not going to see that hot black icky smoke is actually above their head. So you want them to just get used to crawling low, whether that bedroom door is closed or not, because if there's a fire at a friend's house or grandma's house or another place where they sleep, they've just gotten into that habit of crawling out of the bed and crawling across the floor. So they're in a spot where that hot black icky smoke that's above them, they're actually crawling in the cool, clean air. When you're outside and you have a campfire, all the hot black icky smoke goes up. But when you're in a room, that smoke goes up, hits the ceiling, and starts to come down. When you're crawling low, you're actually crawling in the cool, clean air that stays low.
Is it important to have all of the bedroom doors closed?
It's actually very important to have bedroom doors closed. Any room that you sleep in, you should close the door. Because if there's a fire, that hot, black, icky smoke, that door can hold that back. And that's why it's important to have smoke alarms in the sleeping area or in the bedrooms or sleeping areas, and also have a smoke alarm outside of them. So when that door is closed, the people sleeping in that area can hear that outside. But that is your protection against that hot, black, icky smoke.
So what happens once we get to the door?
Well, you crawl to the door and you feel it. We teach people to feel the door, that any chance that they can feel the heat on the other side, they automatically know there's fire on that side and they need to go their second way. But you have the kids, the people in the room, feel the door as high as they can reach, and you want to say as high you can reach so children don't feel like, I can't get to the top, I'm in trouble right away. So high as they can reach, feel the doorknob. If it's cool to the touch, you open the door very slowly. If hot, black, icky smoke rushes in, you know you have to go your second way out. So you teach them to reclose that door, turn on the light switch, and then go to the window. And as you go to the window, you want to grab either your pillowcase, a sheet, a t-shirt, a piece of light colored clothing. The reason we tell people to teach light colored clothing, that way, whether it's day or night, they know that they've taught the people in the home to grab something light colored, so they're not grabbing a black shirt to hang out at 3 o'clock in the morning. But what they do with that sheet or that t-shirt or that pillowcase is they open up the window, they take the screen and either pop it out or pull it out. Then they take that pillowcase, they put it over the ledge of the window, they shut the window, so that's hanging outside, so people can see it from the outside. And then everybody in the family should be taught to stay by the window. And this is when you're signaling for help. A lot of times children, when they're afraid, they'll cover their eyes because their thinking is, if I don't see it, it won't hurt me, or children will hide. So you've got to stress to those children that they can't hide in the closet, they can't hide under the bed, and they can't go into an adjoining bathroom and hide. They've got to stay by that window. Because what happens is when the fire department does show up, a fire officer or firefighter will actually walk around the house or the building, and when they see something hanging out of the window, they'll know somebody's in distress. And that's actually a national and global signal for someone in distress or needing help. What happens then is the fire department comes around to that window, throws their ladder up, opens the window, and instead of having to search for someone in a room, they find them right by the window. So if they fall asleep, they're by the window. So that's why it's really important that you practice this with your family. You've got to make sure that everybody knows how to open the windows, and the windows do open in all the bedrooms. They know how to pop out the screen and then go through that whole pillowcase and how to close the window. It's very important that the window is closed once they hang the sheet or the t-shirt or the pillowcase outside the window. So that's how you signal your way out if you're on a top floor. So this floor is actually on a second floor. Now, if the children are on a first level and they can just crawl out of the window, that's also something that has to be practiced.
Do we have to use a signal? What about those ladders that you can buy that you just drop out the window?
It's really important with the ladders that families that do purchase them be aware that they're one-use ladders a lot of time. Ladders are something you have to practice with because they go out the window and they just hang, and there's nothing to support them against the house usually, and those can be just as dangerous as if somebody jumped. So if you're going to get an escape ladder, you've got to get one that can be used multiple times, handle the weight of the people that are going to be crawling down it, and you've got to practice with it. When your family has practiced the plan and practiced signaling for help, there's the other scenario you should practice is they can take their first way out. So your family gets to the point where everybody's felt the door, they've opened the door, it's clear, and they've crawled down the hallway, down the steps, and gotten outside. The next thing they need to do is go to their meeting place.
Why do we need to have a meeting place?
So one reason we need to have a meeting place is it's a central place for the whole family to go. It's where everybody needs to learn to stay until everybody comes out so heads can actually be counted. You want your family to be there so when the fire department arrives, they can go, is anybody missing? And you can say, yes, somebody's missing, or you can say everybody's here. But if you've got people that don't have a meeting place and they're going in different places, you don't know if they're out of the house or if they're just wandering around the neighborhood.
How does a family choose where they should meet?
Well, first of all, if people are watching this right now and they don't have a meeting place, it's something you can have before you go to bed tonight and at least put your meeting place in place. But you really should have your meeting place in the front yard. You should have it so people don't have to cross, especially a busy street, to go to that meeting place. You also want to have your meeting place in a place where people aren't going to have to go through deep snow to get there.
Kelly, what else can we do to prepare our families in case of a fire?
Well, one thing that's really important is once a family does get to their meeting place, somebody does need to call the fire department, call 911 to get the fire department there if they haven't already been called. And one of the things that a lot of people are taking for granted these days is we don't have our phone with the curly cord attached to the wall anymore. And now we have to look for cell phones or a way to call 911. And another thing we're trying to teach kids now is if you can't find a phone or you can't find a phone that you can dial from, because some kids aren't going to be able to dial from a push button phone or a rotary phone, then go to a neighbor's house and call 911 from there. And that's why we practice, is you really want to find out what your kids' abilities are. You also want your family to learn about fire prevention, to make sure everybody in the family has a good fire prevention plan, that everybody knows how to prevent fires. You teach kids to stay away from hot things and things like that, and also that everybody has working smoke alarms in their house, and that means every level of the home, outside sleeping areas and inside bedrooms and other places where people sleep. And just so people know, one of the things that have been happening over the last couple of years is we're trying to call smoke alarms and not detectors. So a lot of times you'll see that interchange, but it's still that smoke alarm that you want in your home, and you want to make sure it's working, and you want to test it on a regular basis.
So Kelly, we've been talking a lot about what families should do to make a plan and have an escape place, but what if I don't have any kids, or I'm an empty nester and nobody else but my husband and I are at home?
A safe escape plan is like fire safety. It's a one size fits all. Everybody needs to practice fire safety. And even if you're a couple that's living alone, you still need to practice it, because you still need to keep each other in check. Sometimes when we're adults, we tend to go, well, I can go get this, or I'll have time to get that. You really have to set a goal together and get out. And for adults, sometimes practicing that second way out is just as important. Another thing, as we get older, we're not as limber as we used to be, so you actually have to see what your abilities are. Are you able to crawl anymore? Do your windows work? Can you pop the screens out anymore? So it's just as important that empty nesters, or even single people, college students, people that live in apartment complexes, everybody should be practicing their plan, because again, you've got 3 minutes to get out.
Thanks, Kelly. I learned a lot, and I'm going right home and practice a plan at our house.
That's great.